Since last time we read fictional scary stories, I thought this time we could read true scary stories featuring Miso against her will. As always though, before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have your own spooky, scary stories that you would like to share with me to read in the future, make sure to email this email right here, which is also available in the description. The stories do not have to be real, just if they're not, make sure you let a bitch know. And if you're liking the surface, if you're liking the content, feel free to leave me a little tip in my tip jar. Okay, now that the intro is all good and done, let's get into it. The first story is called The Hatman. When I was in my teens, about like 15 years old, I encountered one of those dark entities that I have heard a lot of people talk about. The one with the black hat. The first night I saw him, I was having a really weird dream that I was in a dark room with no lights around me, but a small spotlight was on me, and I could feel someone watching me, but I couldn't see who or what was looking at me. I remember that night I woke up scared, looking around my room. My bedroom was small, and my bed was right in front of the door, and when I turned to see the door, there it was. A super tall dark shadow in the door, hence my door was the color white, so this thing was clearly visible. I couldn't see a face, but I could see the top of its head was hat-shaped. I cleared my eyes, just to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me, but when I opened them, it was still there. I was scared and I could feel my skin getting hot. As it just stood there. I couldn't sleep that night, and I just sat there looking at the thing because I thought maybe if I looked at it, it won't try to attack me or something. But until this day, I still think about that, mostly because I told people about this story, and they told me they had also seen it. And it's called The Hatman. To me, he is a shadow man, because fuck the hat. You're not real, that motherfucker. That motherfucker right there is not real. The next story is called The Person Outside. Need help. This had just happened within the hour, and I need some advice on what should come of it and what to do. Oh gosh. For context, I'm in the basement. I keep my gaming set up down there. I'm playing My Hero Academia Battle Royale. Not important, but thought I'd mention it. Nice. When my brother's fiance calls me from upstairs, she sounded a little scared and asked me to come up real quick. I asked her why. She was watching TV with her daughter, my niece. When she looked out the window, there was a man she had never seen before just looking at her from over the porch railing. The railing is like 10 feet from the sidewalk. He had to physically walk up to see her. He ran off as soon as she saw him. And that's when she called me. I armed up with a heavy wrench and this wooden walking stick and headed outside. I searched all around our property, but I didn't see anything. After about 5 minutes, I decided to stop being the hero and go inside. Yeah, just because you're playing My Hero Academia doesn't mean shit. Okay. That's when I heard, hello. It scared the shit out of me. I looked around and couldn't see anybody. I don't believe in ghosts, and neither does she. I'm convinced it was a person. Any ideas what the hell this man was doing? I don't know. Y'all shouldn't wait around and fuck around and find out, okay? No, don't do that. I don't advise that. I advise if you think a man was there, call the police. Let them know. Leave a paper trail of everything. Okay? Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, get the fuck out of there. The next story is called My Heart Just Dropped. That's not what it's called, but my heart just dropped into my butt. The story is called was never anybody there, but it always was icy cold down that hallway and leading up to the garage. I'd ask him what the boy's name was, and he would tell me Dawn. Dawn was his name. I asked what the boy was doing, waiting for his mom to pick him up. He would always reply, "We put it down to an imaginary friend, nothing more, nothing less. Harmless," we thought, until he started walking or waking up in the middle of the night screaming, saying, "Dawn won't let me sleep, he keeps tickling my toes." This sent chills down my spine. Same. So, my son would sleep in my bed with me every night. This continued for another 6 months until the real estate notified us that the owners of the house had died and his children would be selling the property and splitting the profit between them, meaning we had to move. After we left, I came across a local news article about the owner of our old rental, stating how much he will be missed by the community. He had been raised by his mother in the house we were renting since he was a child. Then I noticed his name, and everything came flooding back to me. Back to me. Back to me. His name was Dawn. My son's imaginary friend was our homeowner. He must have been waiting for his mother to come and take him to the other side. I'll never look at imaginary friends the same. Somebody else commented, "Wow, that's creepy. My son will be 2 this month. I'm currently living with my parents. They sold their house and moved into a rental until the market dies down. The owners of the house moved overseas for work. It's a fairly brand new neighborhood, a couple of years old. My parents don't have pets, and the owners of the house had a dog. Shortly after moving in, my son would appear into the first floor's restroom and say, 'Cat, where are you?' The restroom is dark. I get an eerie feeling from it, and have only ever used it to wash my hands a few times. My son will not enter the bathroom and seems scared. In the kitchen, we have a little hallway that connects to the dining room. In the middle is a butler's pantry. My son will sit on the floor while I cook and play with the pots and pans. Recently, he's been stopping in the middle of playing and look down at the butler pantry hall. He then says, 'Kiki, where are you? Kiki hiding. Pick me up. Pick me up,' while seemingly very scared and frantically looking at the floor in the butler's pantry hallway. It's not nighttime when he does this. It's in the morning and daytime. He also has woken up in the middle of the night, gets out of his crib, and reaches his hands up to something in the middle of the room as if saying, 'Pick me up.' No, that's the one that got me. No. I have a night vision baby monitor, and it looks as if he's reaching out to something tall and invisible. After a couple of seconds, he'll come to his senses and race out of the room and run to my room. On those occasions, I cannot get him to get back or go back to sleep in his room, and he sleeps with me in my bed. My bed. My bed. I've slept in his room on the floor a few times to get him to be comfortable and show that it's okay. The room had felt unusually cold, but I chalked it up to the AC doing its job. Oddly, it's only that room that has a chiller temp. The next story is called A Sleepover That Haunts Me to My Core. At the time of the sleepover, it was me and my best friend, both age 7 or 8. We are both now 16 and 17, and haven't talked about this incident since. We lived in Florida, about 15 minutes away from Tampa. It was one of our many sleepovers we had, and it was no different from others. We played with Barbies, watched movies, read books, until we couldn't take it anymore and went to bed around 9 or 10. I turned off the lights and climbed up to the top bunk where both me and my friend were going to sleep. As I laid down, something immediately thought she was lying because I didn't see anything. I let out a breath of air I didn't know I was holding in. I go to adjust my blanket, and that's when I see him. A man, dark, tall, seeming to stare at us both. I'd immediately grip my friend's hand and close my eyes hard. "We have to go get my mom," I whispered, and I felt my friend nod. But we both laid there unable to move. All of a sudden, I feel the movement of someone climbing up the ladder and crawling slowly. The blankets moved with the movement, and I slowly opened my eyes to watch the man slowly start to crawl towards us. I was gasping for air and looked over to see my friend watching too, paralyzed from moving. I look back at the man and could only see his outline, no features. I hold my friend's hand tight and say, "Scream when I tap your finger." I barely got out in a whisper. She slowly nodded. As I watched, the man slowly reached for my face. I tapped her hand and we both screamed bloody murder. My mom came running in no later than 20 seconds and turned on the light, and both me and my friend were holding each other crying. There was no trace of the man, and my mom checked all doors, saying they were locked and weren't even touched. We both slept on the couch that night, watching Barbie movies and holding each other tightly. To this day, I don't know what it was or who it was, but I will always remember the eerie feeling of death being close to my face. Girl, that was a ghost. The next story is called Walmart Cleaner. One of my first jobs I had was a after-hours janitor at Walmart. I worked from 9:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. when the manager got there. Now, I was typically with 2 others, but it varied. A few nights I was alone. One of the only things I found creepy was the warehouse downstairs. It was the same size as the actual Walmart. We had to go down there and grab soap to run the machine we used to wash the floors with. We rarely needed to, as there are a few left out for us. One night I was there alone. I had to use the floor cleaner and had to go down to the warehouse to get some soap. It already had an eerie vibe to it, pretty dimly lit, honestly. I walked over to grab soap. This was around 2 in the morning, so I had quite a bit of time. I was grabbing the soap when I heard echoed footsteps. I was the only one there. I walked out of the aisle to see what looked to be a mid-20-year-old male. "Who are you?" I yelled at him, shivering. He said his name was Josh. This was his first night on the job. He was told to look for the other worker to get some assistance and was told that the warehouse was where we got soap and also where the break room was. I was creeped out, but he seemed legit. He knew the manager's name and answered all the questions I asked him. We started working and everything was going well. He took an hour break at 5, pretty much to get out of work early. Said he would see me tomorrow night. The clock hit 6, and soon after my manager arrived, I asked why he didn't tell me about Josh, and he looked confused. The new night worker. What he told me made hairs on my neck stand up. "There's no new night employee. You're working alone tonight. Was someone here with you?" Police report was filed, but to my knowledge, nothing has ever come up. I quit the job the next day and never went back to that Walmart again. I would quit too. No. This next story is called I'll Let You Go This Time. Just moved to a new town alone, me and my dog, went hiking one early morning, an old trail. This next story is called I'll Let You Go This Time. I had just moved to a new town alone, me and my dog. Went hiking early one morning on an old trail and met a fellow dog walker who told me there is a huge group of them, other dog walkers, who meet up in a field each morning to invited me to join and I agreed, following him off the path. I was excited to meet new people and have a new community. After walking deeper and deeper into the forest and no field in sight, I started to get weird vibes. It may sound crazy, but there was a crow that had been in a tree chattering away on the rail trail. It had followed us off the trail, flying from tree to tree, and it was squawking aggressively at us. I couldn't ignore it. Then my BlackBerry beeped, and I had lost service. It fully occurred to me that maybe I was in a vulnerable position. This man was much larger than me, probably close to double my weight. We had been walking for about 30 minutes, and I made some lie up about losing track of time and said I would have to head out. He tried to talk to me into staying, and how much fun my dog would have. Reached down to pet my dog. Dog lunged in a very aggressive manner, snapping and snarling at the man. He is a boxer. By the way, the guy backed off and said, and I quote, "I'll let you go this time. Maybe another day." We turned, and I tailed it out of there so fast, the crow followed my dog and I all the way back to my car and didn't leave until I pulled away. I learned later there is no field through the forest and no dog group that meets there. A few years later, a woman's car was found abandoned in the area, and she's still missing 10 years later. That crow is your guardian angel. This next story, and most likely the last, is called "Someone Keeps Coming to My House in the Middle of the Night." Just to preface, this is a temporary account, as I am in pure fear that somehow this person will track this back to me. I, 24-year-old male, live in a quiet neighborhood in a suburban town in Queensland, Australia. Shout out to everybody watching in Australia. Anyway, with my roommate, 25-year-old female. We are childhood friends and are both finishing our studies at university. The occurrences started around 2 months ago, with the most recent update only last weekend. About 2 months ago, I can't recall the actual date, but I was lying in bed late at night watching a soccer game, drifting in and out of sleep. I usually just use the background noise to help me fall asleep, as I would say I am a very nocturnal person. I feel like I was on edge between being awake and asleep when I heard an urgent pounding on the front door. The way the house is shaped, my bedroom is approximately 10 meters from the front door and backs onto the front courtyard. The knock startled me at first, as I was unsure if it was just in my head, so I literally laid still in silence to see if I heard anything else. So I knew it couldn't be my roommate, as she was out of town for the week visiting family and attending a wedding. Shortly after that, there was a second knock, just as hard, but no one yelled out or anything. I'd say that I'm not easily scared and enjoy watching horror movies in my free time, but I found myself frozen in place, not being able to move. No further knocks came, but I was too frightened to fall back asleep and didn't end up resting until around 4 a.m. I called my roommate in the morning, asking her if she knew anyone that would come to our door in the night, but she was just as confused as I was. I didn't really think much of it anymore. I sort of came to the conclusion that it was maybe some drunk that mistaken our house as theirs, and it was a Saturday night when it happened. I work in a large chain grocery store, doing night stacking a few days a week, with my shifts ending usually around 2 to 4 a.m. usually. It was Saturday, and I was approaching the end of my shift when my roommate texted me saying someone was knocking on our front door again. Even though I wasn't there, I was struck by the same kind of fear I had experienced the week prior. She reassured me that the doors were all locked, but was scared knowing that the same thing happened to me the week before. She kept in touch with me until my shift was over and told me that there was no second knock. When I arrived home, the front yard seemed untouched and there was no one walking out on the street. I must reinstate it is a very quiet neighborhood with many elderly couples living on our street. In the morning, my It still seemed a bit shook up, so I put in an anonymous tip with a Crime Stopper service, but they never got back to me. Nothing else happened for the following month and a half. We were both going on about our lives like it never happened, but I stopped working Saturday nights, as this was the only similarity between the two occurrences. That was until the most recent Saturday. I was up late in the living room watching some old Black Mirror episodes as the new season was about to come out. It was around 1 a.m. and I had plans to go to bed after the episode I was watching. For context, the lounge room is practically right next to the front door, with the path to the door going past the large window. As I was watching, I saw the outside motion sensor turn on from the bottom of the windowsill under the blinds. I froze. Up until this point, I had completely forgotten about the knocking, and I was struck with fear. A short moment later, bang, bang, bang. At first, I thought I was going to sit there and wait for them to go, but after a second loud knock, I decided to look through the peephole quietly to see if it was someone familiar. My roommate had a few failed relationships that didn't end on good terms, so I assumed maybe, just maybe, it was one of them. It wasn't. It was a woman. She was staring at the front door extremely still. It was like she was frozen. Her eyes staring straight ahead with no expression. Oh my goodness. It felt like she could see through the eye hole, just staring into my soul. I couldn't move. She just stood there for another 2 or so minutes until she looked to the side and ran off. I called the cops and explained on the phone what had happened, and they sent someone out shortly after. They checked on the cars parked on the street but came up empty-handed as there was no damage and told me to call back if anything happened again. The thing that I couldn't get out of my head was the way she stood there emotionless, staring straight ahead, and the way she ran off. She looked to be in her mid-30s, maybe 40, but was wearing a small nightdress and no shoes. Not only was this out of the ordinary, but it was freezing outside. Since then, I've ordered some of those doorbell cameras in case she comes back. But, to be completely honest, I flinch whenever someone knocks on the door now. I pray to God in heaven on this fine Sunday that woman never fucking comes back. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have your own spooky, scary story, whether it be true or fictional, just if it's fictional, let a girl know. Send it to this email right here, which is also available in the description down below. And if you want to tip your favorite waitress for her services and or good quality content, here's my tip jar information, which is also available in the description